G'day there guys, Marky here, and welcome back to another episode of r/relationship advice. With that said, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn to the barbie, and let's get right into it. Posted by user CertainDemand8445, titled, Am I the asshole for not taking my wife's side and siding with my parents? Background. My wife, 28 female, and I, 30 male, as well as my brother and his wife, went to visit our parents as we haven't seen them in a while. My parents, 57, had a box of $300 ginseng in the fridge to be given as a gift for their close friend's wedding anniversary tomorrow. We know this because it came up in conversation during lunch. They also told us to help ourselves to anything in the fridge, but to not touch the ginseng for obvious reasons. The problem came when a few hours later, my parents called us in a panic, saying that they couldn't find the ginseng and asked if anyone had seen it. I didn't take it, and at first I thought they just misplaced it somewhere. However, they insisted that they both agreed on not moving it out of the fridge drawer for that exact reason. All of us denied taking it, and the conversation got more heated when my father started yelling that someone must have taken it since it only went missing when we came to visit. All of us continued to deny taking it, with my wife being really quiet, and my father said that if it didn't turn up soon, he'd have to have everyone's belongings checked. That's when my wife admitted that she took it. Apparently it was some popular brand that my in-laws mentioned, and she wanted to give it to them, and she thought that no one would notice since it was in an inconspicuous place in the fridge. My mother-in-law later called and said that my parents overreacted over such an inconsequential thing, and screamed at me that I was an asshole for not defending my wife. The thing is, in my opinion, it wasn't a small thing. My wife literally stole hundreds of dollars from my parents and tried to lie her way out of it. While I agree that my parents shouldn't have started yelling and accusing us, I feel like my wife was in the wrong for taking the ginseng in the first place. This situation has caused a lot of friction, and we haven't been speaking since coming home. Am I the asshole? OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. I didn't take my wife's side, even though our relationship is my first priority, and she is important to me. While yes, your relationship is your first priority and she is important, that doesn't mean that you enable her being a thief, especially to your parents. Oh yeah, I can excuse my wife stealing literally hundreds of dollars from my own parents because she's my number one. That's it, go baby, steal everything from me. What's that, you're punching my parents in the face as well? Well, that's okay because you're my first priority and you're important. OP, obviously you're not the asshole for this situation, but I think there needs to be some serious intervention with your wife, because she has brushed this off like it's absolutely nothing, and her parents are enabling her. Scary and disgusting, the behavior shown by her and her parents. In the comments, Protection Frequent 18 says, Not the asshole. Your wife literally stole a $300 item from your parents, and her and mother-in-law are mad that she got caught. Honestly, if my husband did that, I'd be having a long think about continuing the marriage. I wouldn't even need to think about it. Instant divorce. If she's willing to lie over a box of ginseng for such selfish reasons, she clearly doesn't love or respect me or my family, and I'd never be able to trust her about anything again. I wonder what else Little Miss Sticky Fingers has helped herself to in other people's homes. Yeah, it was odd to me that the parents were babysitting this item since they got there. I thought that it would turn out that the wife moved it and they were being really precious about it, and maybe she touched it. Now I wonder if wife isn't always shopping around when she visits his family. I'm picturing this wife having some hidden bat cave under their house, just full of all the stuff she's taken. She then swims through it like Scrooge McDuck while singing like the Little Mermaid. Look at this stuff, isn't it neat? Wouldn't you think my stolen collection's complete? I can't stop until it goes from the ceiling to the floor. No, it's not enough, I want more. Not the asshole 100%. Honestly, it would have me rethinking this marriage too, since she's revealed herself to be a liar and a thief. And I don't blame your parents for yelling. This will not be the first time she has stolen and lied about it. This is just the first time that OP has caught her. And now, onto the update. After making the post, I thought a lot more about the situation. I realized after reading the comments that this indeed wasn't a one-time situation. Things in our house like face creams, kitchen utensils, and even household tools would go missing, and I would just believe my wife's excuses. I feel like such an idiot for not realizing sooner, and honestly can't believe she took advantage of my trust like that. I guess that a part of me refused to believe the truth, which was how she thought she could get away with it this time. When I brought up divorce, she immediately threatened to call the police to arrest me for domestic violence, when I had never laid a hand on her like that, so that I couldn't ever find a job again. So, needless to say, my lawyer is being called and this marriage will be over very soon. I have also apologized to my parents for all of this awful behavior, and they have accepted. To be honest, this is probably the best ending, and I'm kind of glad this situation happened before it went on any longer. I'm incredibly done with my hopefully soon ex-wife, and with her side of the family, whose mother called me again yesterday entirely remorseless and called me a childish mummy's boy. Thank you everyone for all of the help and comments. Also, to clarify a few things, from what I'm aware, mother-in-law was aware of my wife's actions, especially since she had done this sort of thing before, taking things from our house to give to them, and she didn't see anything wrong with it since neither of them like my parents, and since it was going to be a short visit, like 2 hours tops, she thought that no one was going to notice the missing ginseng before we left. In the comments, Ashamed Dragonfly says, "Like many commenters on the original post, I thought this couldn't be the first occasion, since the dishonesty was so brazen and mother-in-law's defense so shameless. OP will be well rid of her. I hope the divorce goes more smoothly than it started out." Nope. She will make a whole lot of drama out of it. She's a pathological liar and a kleptomaniac. What a terrible person. I had a friend like this back in high school. Would just steal things from my house and act like it's no big deal. Mostly small things like stuffed animals, mechanical pencils, erasers, knickknacks. I finally had had enough though when she stole some jewelry that my grandma gave me that I told her was important to me. She claimed she didn't steal them, but then wore them to the school the next day. I ripped it off her neck and we stopped being friends. I want a divorce. I'm going to call the police and tell them that you abused me. And now I'm gonna divorce faster. Well, this is coming from a child who stole a $300 gift right out of the fridge. Not the brightest apple in the bunch. About as sharp as a marble. She really thought no one was going to notice the $300 wedding gift that they literally had just talked about with them. That sounds like the kind of excuse that a little kid makes when they get caught sneaking food from the pantry. Sounds like this sort of behavior has been enabled by her mother her whole life. She probably rarely faced actual consequences for it. My theory is that she was actually taught to do this by her parents. Stealing is bad unless you are doing it for your parents. Also, stealing for us is how you earn our love. Our next post is titled, "I found a jar that my husband has been ejaculating in and I threw it away. He got very upset with me." So I'm a woman in my 30s. I made a throwaway because I don't want this tied to my main account at all. Yesterday, our garbage disposal stopped working, and I was trying to see why, so I was looking around under the sink, and I moved stuff out to get in there to look around more easily. In the very back, tucked away, was a mason jar that I thought was just over halfway full of kitchen grease at first. But then I realized it wasn't grease. I thought it looked like semen. I made the mistake of opening it, and by the smell, I knew that it was definitely semen. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Disgusted, I threw it away in the dumpster outside. It had to have been my husband's, but I don't know why he would save semen in a jar. Couch. My husband got home and I asked him about it. He seemed very embarrassed and confessed that it was indeed a jar full of semen that he was filling for almost a year. I was shocked and asked him why. He said whenever it was my time of the month or I wasn't in the mood, he'd jerk off into the jar after I went to bed. I asked him why not go to the toilet or use tissues or the shower or something. Why a frickin' jar? He couldn't answer that, other than saying that he's been doing this since he was a kid. I told him I want him to stop using a jar because it's disgusting. He told me he didn't want to, and asked where the jar was. I told him that I threw it away, and he was upset. He said that it took him a long time to fill the jar that much, and now he has to start over, and we argued about him using a jar to store old jizz in. I still don't understand why he wants to fill a jar for F's sake. We argued about it, and during the argument, he opened the refrigerator, took a large jar of pickles, and dumped it out, and started rinsing it out and said, "This is the cum jar now." And before I knew it, I'm literally screaming at my husband about coming in jars, and told him he can either come in me or the jar, but not both. He clutched the jar and stormed off to the bathroom. I was literally speechless. I sat down and started watching TV, trying to take my mind off it, when he came out and joined me and tried to patch things up. I asked him where he hid the jar, and he wouldn't effing tell me. He told me that we should just forget about the fight. He apologized to me and told me that he'd make sure that I didn't have to see the jar if I didn't want to. I wanted us to stop fighting, so I agreed, and we didn't speak about it for the rest of the night. He fell asleep early, but I laid in bed for over an hour thinking about the effing jar. I don't understand why he is so intent on doing something so disgusting, and I'm still angry about it. And now, onto the update, 3 hours later. My husband got home and we sat down and talked. After a lot of prying, I got him to come clean with me about why he comes in a jar and why it's in the kitchen. He gets very excited when I eat his cum, and he makes pancakes every weekend for breakfast, and he mixes the cum into the pancake batter and gets off on me eating it without my knowledge or consent. He has been doing this regularly for our entire marriage, and has mixed cum in many other things that I've eaten and drank. I have, of course, swallowed his cum before, but this is different because he did this without my knowing. I honestly couldn't yell at him or even say anything. I felt numb. I just got up and started throwing shit in a bag while he tried to talk me down and stop me. I ended up leaving with some bare essentials and told him that I needed space and will reach out to him when I'm ready to talk. I'm taking some time off work and headed to a friend's house for a few days. I asked her if I could stay, and she said she doesn't know why, and honestly, I don't know what to tell her or anyone else for that matter. I don't know what I'm going to do or what this means for our marriage. I feel disgusted, used, and like trust in my husband has been severely damaged. I haven't cried or done anything yet. I stopped to get a bite to eat on the way to my friend's house and try to figure out what to say to her because I know she'll have questions. I also think I need to cry first. Thank you to everyone who has been kind and supportive and offered good advice. Please keep it coming because I feel like I'm drowning here and I have no idea what to do. You guys ever just get an Isabelle amiibo from Animal Crossing and a jar and I'll see myself out? In the comments, Nikki Bok Choi says, "The part where he dumps the pickle jar and declares that it's the new cum jar had me dying. You can come in me or the jar, not both." Hugs his jar and runs to the bathroom. Honestly, that was so funny, I was questioning if it was real. How can he even fill up a jar with that much semen fluid while also using it as a cooking ingredient? Half a mason jar is a lot of masturbating, and the odor after a year of keeping it unrefrigerated must have been overwhelming. I don't believe it. There is so much awful to this, but how dare he serve her potentially poisonous food? That's basically bacterial culture liquid left to sit. I acknowledge the predatory sexual behavior, but he could have killed her. And here I was just grossed out about it normally. This makes it even worse. Am I the asshole for mixing my cum into my wife's food and giving her botulism? Pastry Puff Cream says, "I've taken a few food safety courses, and yeah, that's what jumped out at me. Not just making her eat cum without her knowledge, but cum he had been storing at room temperature, mixing old and new for a long time, quote unquote. How could that have not tasted terrible? So not only is the trust completely broken, but now it's also obvious he has no common sense." And I think that's where we're all going to come together to end this episode on a high note. Damn, that really does sound like a sticky situation for that couple, and I'm rooting for them to just come together and work things out, honestly. Though, I do think the best case in this situation is that she leaves him, potentially sues him for what he's done to her. Oh my god. Anyway, guys, that's where I'm going to end today's episode. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought about it down in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.